Welcome to MyBookie. You're ready to create an account and start making money, and we're here to help. And remember, you can get a bonus of up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now you're ready to bet. Just go to mybookie.ag, visit the sportsbook, click on your bet, and input the amount you want to risk or win in the bet slip. Yes, it's that easy. Just remember, at MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid.
Change your game with the all-new Pro Rock Hockey Stick, a Canadian company providing a top-of-the-line twig at an affordable price. Pro Rock sticks are extremely lightweight, balanced, and provide the perfect kick point. Get your fully customized stick today at ProRock.com. Play like a Pro Rock.
Oh, sheesh. Welcome to my show today, everybody. I didn't realize I forgot to unmute the music there. Never mind, let's just get started with March Madness, Baylor and Gonzaga. So Baylor smoked Houston 78-59 and Gonzaga won 93-90 on Saturday night. And I said that the first game was going to be a blowout between Baylor and Houston, which I'm not surprised. The second game was probably the greatest college basketball game we've ever seen in maybe college basketball history. UCLA ties it at 90 with 3 seconds remaining at the end of regulation. Not the end of regulation, in overtime. And then let me go to commercial break.
Welcome to MyBookie. You're ready to create an account and start making money, and we're here to help. And remember, you can get a bonus of up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now you're ready to bet. Just go to mybookie.ag, visit the sportsbook, click on your bet, and input the amount you want to risk or win in the bet slip. Yes, it's that easy. Just remember, at MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid.
Change your game with the all-new Pro Rock Hockey Stick, a Canadian company providing a top-of-the-line twig at an affordable price. Pro Rock sticks are extremely lightweight, balanced, and provide the perfect kick point. Get your fully customized stick today at ProRock.com. Play like a Pro Rock.
Dear apologies for that. I needed to recuperate. That was honestly the most embarrassing start that I've ever had to a show. I needed to do that for a minute. Let me get back to this. Baylor smoked Houston. Let me go on script here. Smoked Houston 78-59, and Gonzaga won 93-90 at the buzzer thanks to Jalen Suggs. And now people are saying that is the best college basketball game they've ever seen all time. Jalen Suggs, the art parent of the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Top 5 NBA pick projectedly, and Baylor's got three guards. Potentially the NBA, Gonzaga has 4. And one of the players on UCLA, Johnny Juzang, was a beast the entire tournament for UCLA. Now everyone gets their Baylor-Gonzaga national championship game. So this is the first one since 2019, since Texas Tech versus Virginia, where Virginia won it all in overtime. And then today, Gonzaga and Baylor, the winner of this game will win it for the first time ever. So I'm taking Gonzaga will take down Baylor at the buzzer in a shootout. Could be one of the best college basketball games ever. So, you know how Ice Cube does the Big Three basketball? Well, what if the Big Three did it in NBA style? Like you take all 30 teams in the NBA and did a 3-on-3 style. So how would each team look like in a 3-on-3 league? Let's start with the Philadelphia 76ers. I did it each and one by every single team. Starters for the 76ers. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Tobias Harris. Well, Simmons could be your ball distributor. And you could also have Embiid as your top guy, top shooter. And in the post, Tobias Harris is probably your second best player. Off the bench, Danny Green and Seth Curry. The Milwaukee Bucks. Starters. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jrue Holiday, and Chris Middleton. Now, Giannis will probably just torch everyone in 3-on-3, and they just gave Jrue Holiday actually a contract extension. Chris Middleton's one of those players where you're just like, he's on or he's off. And your subs are Brook Lopez and Dante DiVincenzo. The Chicago Bulls starters. Zach LaVine, Lauri Markkanen, and Nikola Vucevic. I like the way LaVine plays. Lauri Markkanen could be the guy that stretches the floor. Yeah, I know it's a 3-on-3, but he would be one of Chicago's better players in a 3-on-3 format. And Vucevic, great ball screener, pick and pop, drive to the basket, shoot the three. He can do it all. Their subs for this game would be Tomas Satoransky and Denzel Valentine. How about the Cleveland Cavaliers in a 3-on-3? Starters. Colin Sexton, Darius Garland, and Kevin Love. Subs. Jared Allen and Larry Nance Jr. So you got shooters, Sexton and Garland. Kevin Love can shoot, but they don't play defense. As I said off the bench, Jared Allen, he's going to probably get paid by the Cleveland Cavaliers at some point. And you also have Larry Nance Jr., who's also another pick-and-pop player. Boston Celtics. Starters. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Kemba Walker. I love the dynamic duo of Tatum and Brown. Tatum, the RPR sold the Boston Celtics, but then you got Brown, who's up and coming. Well, he's actually a rise, and Kemba Walker's had his knee issues all year. What about your subs for the Celtics? Marcus Smart, a very valuable defender, and Robert Williams III. He's not a bad center, but I don't like the way in the 5-on-5 actual format that how Danny Ainge has constructed his team. They're actually 8th in the Eastern Conference as we actually speak. The Los Angeles Clippers starters: Serge Ibaka, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George. You know, in those 3-on-3 tournaments, want to know what would be trending a lot? Pandemic P. That would be one of the things for the Clippers. That's a nice big three with Serge Ibaka, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. But their subs are Marcus Morris Sr. and Rajon Rondo. And I know Rondo has yet to take the floor for the Clippers, but they brought him in to be a captain, a leader, and a floor general. And yes, playoff Rondo is a real thing. The Memphis Grizzlies starters: Ja Morant, Grayson Allen, and Jonas Valanciunas. That's actually a nice balanced lineup. Explosiveness, rebounds, and three-point shooting. Well, in those big three tournaments, they got what they call the 4-point shot. You're probably going to have guys like Dame Lillard. Did I just say Dame Lillard? I meant Steph Curry, Dame Lillard, CJ McCollum, Klay Thompson. Man, I'm really not on my A game today. At all. And subs: Dylan Brooks and Desmond Bane. Now, here's a guy that's going to probably take some 4-point shots. I'm going to tell you my next lineup. The Atlanta Hawks starters: Trae Young, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Clint Capella. Subs: DeAndre Hunter and Kevin Huerter. So you got a ton of 3-point shooting. Clint Capella, one of the most underrated big men in the entire NBA. The Atlanta Hawks are actually they're sitting 4th right now in the Eastern Conference standings. And they're probably only going to get better under Nate McMillan as a head coach. And I could understand why the Indiana Pacers got rid of him. And you see where the Indiana Pacers are now. The Miami Heat starters: Goran Dragic, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo. Subs: Tyler Herro and Victor Oladipo. There's a couple interesting guys that I snubbed, like Kendrick Nunn and Duncan Robinson. But in the 3-on-3 tournament where you only have 3 starters and 2 subs, yeah, you're only gonna be allowed to have your best 5 potentially, and who you feel fits. Charlotte Hornets, they were one of the more interesting teams in a potential 3-on-3 tournament. Starters: LaMelo Ball, Gordon Hayward, and PJ Washington. Off the bench: Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier. This would be one of the most dangerous teams in the 3-on-3 tournament. 3-on-3, they could shoot. They could run up the floor. That's why they're in a playoff spot. I thought they were going to be one of the worst teams in the league this year. But look at where they're at. I mean, LaMelo Ball only has a bright future ahead of him. Terry Rozier, they call him Scary Terry for a reason. Had Danny Ainge actually kept guys like Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward around, they'd be a serious threat in the East. But no, Danny Ainge was too cheap, notoriously cheap, to let them walk, and this is what he deserves. Utah Jazz, and they may be a little worse in this format. Starters: Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, and Rudy Gobert. Off the bench: Jordan Clarkson and Bogdan Bogdanovic. And I don't even have Joe Ingles on this roster for the Utah Jazz. Sacramento Kings, they're not good in real life because they don't have depth play because it stinks from the S to the K. But another team that would benefit from a 3-on-3 tournament. Starters: De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, and Richaun Holmes. Off the bench, Tyrese Haliburton and Harrison Barnes. That would be another very explosive offenses that we have here with the Sacramento Kings. The New York Knicks. Starters: Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, and Emmanuel Quickley. Off the bench, and now this team is, they're in where they are today because of coaching, and they've kind of fallen off a little bit. Elfrid Payton and Obi Toppin would be the New York Knicks bench guys, starters and bench guys. Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Dennis Schroeder. Off the bench, Markieff Morris and Kyle Kuzma. But Andre Drummond, but how about the legendary Alex Caruso? How could you possibly forget about those two? No, Glenn, that's not how it works here sometimes. You feel like you got to go with the best of it all. And I guess that's how it works. The Orlando Magic starters: Markelle Fultz, Terrence Ross, and Wendell Carter Jr. Off the bench, Cole Anthony and Gary Harris Jr. But before I get into the next half of these teams, we are live on 12-Ounce Sports. Quench your sports thirst. Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner. Get up to $1,000 bonus with your first deposit. MyBookie.ag, promo 12-Ounce Sports. As I always do on this show, thank you, Cody Hansen, JB Beck, Philly, Pete, Tyler Valdez, Mike Rivales, Lou Gamblin, and the rest of the 12-Ounce Sports crew for making these shows professional with all the hard work they do. I'm just going to get into the next half of teams here. Dallas Mavericks starters: Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, and Josh Richardson. Now, Doncic and Porzingis, when healthy, in a 3-on-3 format, would absolutely toy with a ton of defenses, pick and roll all day. How are you going to stop that? When you have more room on the floor to operate, when you have two less guys on the floor, that's how I think it would be. Doncic is one of the best players in the NBA. Porzingis is one of them three-point sharpshooters. And it would just be downright and absolutely amazing to see. Now off the bench will be Jalen Brunson and J.J. Redick. Now one guy I may have potentially snubbed is Dorian Finney-Smith, who's actually not a bad player. Brooklyn Nets. Before I say who their starters are, just for 1 minute, you should all probably think, you probably all know who the three starters for the Brooklyn Nets are. James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and obviously Kevin Durant. No, that shouldn't go as a surprise to anyone. And if you are surprised by that, well, I'm not sorry for you. That's how I feel about the Brooklyn Nets. 3-on-3. Now off the bench is Blake Griffin and Bruce Brown. Now I like Bruce Brown a lot. I didn't say LaMarcus Aldridge. I like Bruce Brown because he could score, he can defend, he gives you that extra energy off the bench. Denver Nuggets. Another interesting 3-on-3 team. Starters: Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., and Nikola Jokic. Maybe the most balanced of the 3-on-3s. Porter's a shooter, Jokic is a passer, and Jamal Murray's a distributor and a shooter. That is the most balanced 3-on-3 team I have probably said yet. And off the bench, Aaron Gordon, and Will Barton are your two bench pieces. And Denver this morning is number 4 in the Western Conference. And now they're ahead of the Los Angeles Lakers. And the Lakers only a half a game up on the Portland Trailblazers. And they're now in danger of slipping to number 6 in the Western Conference. And they're 4-0 since Aaron Gordon got traded from the Orlando Magic to the Denver Nuggets. And Denver is a legitimate threat to anyone in real life in the Western Conference simply because they're well coached by Mike Malone. They're pretty deep. They got athleticism on the wings. They can shoot, they can defend. And some people think that Nikola Jokic is going to walk away with the 2021 NBA MVP award. That's how people see it this morning. Indiana Pacers starters, Malcolm Brogdon, Domantas Sabonis, and Caris LeVert. That is actually not bad, but it's not great either. But we've seen Caris LeVert before when he has to carry the team sometimes, like he did with the Brooklyn Nets before. When he's hot smoking fire on a day like where it's 450 degrees inside the oven. And off the bench, Jeremy Lamb and Doug McDermott. So the New Orleans Pelicans, they have an interesting team. Starters, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and Zion Williamson. Now, this is one of the more intriguing teams that we would have in this tournament. Lonzo has vision. He's having probably his best year of his career. He's going to get paid by somebody in the offseason. It's just a matter of who decides to pay him. Zion's one of the most athletic freaks that we have in the NBA. And Brandon Ingram continues to get better every single year. Off the bench, Josh Hart and Eric Bledsoe. Detroit Pistons, probably the worst team that I've probably read off of paper yet. Jeremy Grant, Sadiq Bey, and Hamidou Diallo. Off the bench, Josh Jackson, Mason Plumlee. That team probably wouldn't win a stinking game in a 3-on-3 tournament. That one team stinks from the S to the K. It's downright absolutely horrific and terrible. The Toronto Raptors, starters, Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, and Pascal Siakam. Off the bench, OG Anunoby and Chris Boucher. Now, Toronto, they're not particularly deep in real life because they're going through a transition rebuild phase. But those three in a 3-on-3 with Lowry, VanVleet, and Siakam, if they are all hitting, it can be a dangerous team. And Anunoby is also not a bad player to have. Boucher, he could just grab your rebounds. He can get you some easy dunks, easy points inside. But he's not an outside threat really at all. How about the Houston Rockets? John Wall, Eric Gordon, Christian Wood as starters. Not bad, actually. Not great, but not bad. Off the bench, Kevin Porter Jr. and Jason Tate. What about the San Antonio Spurs? DeJounte Murray, DeMar DeRozan, and Jakob Poeltl. Off the bench, Derek White and Rudy Gay. I'd probably snub Keldon Johnson off this list, but that's okay. You can't please everybody, and you know it always works like these all-star games. That's how it works. As I always talk about on the 158th show today. Phoenix Suns, one of the best teams in the NBA, and here are my starters for the Phoenix Suns. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. Who's coming off the bench? Mikal Bridges and Dario Saric. Well, you know any old Phoenix Suns team. They're going to score the basketball. Remember the days of Steve Nash, Damari Stoudemire, Sean Marion, Kurt Thomas, Tim Thomas. Leandro Barbosa, Raja Bell, excuse me. That team could score, and that team should have won the NBA title in 2006. The team that actually won it was the Miami Heat with Dwayne Wade, Shaquille O'Neal, Jason Williams, Antoine Walker, Udonis Haslem, and then they had some other key guys off the bench like Alonzo Mourning, Jason Caputo, James Posey, and Gary Payton for Pat Riley's squad. And they beat the Dallas Mavericks when they had Dirk Nowitzki, Eric Dampier, Zagana Job, Josh Howard, Marquise Daniels, Jason Terry, Devin Harris. Some way, somehow, I remember all those names back then. Don't ask me how, but simply I know how to. All right, how about the Oklahoma City Thunder? What's interesting about the Thunder is I thought they were actually going to be the worst team in the NBA. But there's some young guys that have actually done well. And the thing about the Thunder is that they actually develop young players well. That's why Sam Presti, the general manager, you can say all you want about having so many draft picks. He's going to hit in the next few years on a few potential superstars, and the Thunder will be back quicker than we probably anticipate. But who are some of those core pieces that they're going to have down the line? So their starters, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, they're saying he's out due to injury, but everyone knows they're tanking. They want a better draft pick. They felt like they probably had won too many games, and general manager Sam Presti has probably realized that. Luguentz Dort and Moses Brown. Now, Moses Brown is a very young center who has a lot of potential in this league. I've seen Moses Brown play. He's like a potential walking double-double every night. He's going to also get you a couple of block shots. And off the bench, Theo Maledon, I think he's nothing more than a backup point guard in the NBA. And if they land the number one pick, obviously they'd probably go with Cade Cunningham of Oklahoma State, who I think is the best player in this draft class. And you also got guys like Jalen Suggs, Gonzaga, and Evan Mobley of USC. So that's where we're heading at this various point in time here. And I think Cade Cunningham would be, him and Gilgeous-Alexander would be a very nice backcourt for the Oklahoma City Thunder moving forward. And Alexei Pokusevsky, now he's another player. He's got a nice left hook shot. He could shoot from the outside. He's got to gain some more muscle a little bit. He's a little bit lean. He's got a nice touch to his game, and he's also got to work some of his defensive end game. How about the Minnesota Timberwolves? If you ask me, probably the second worst 3-on-3 tournament team on paper. Starters, Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell, and Karl-Anthony Towns. Maybe it's not as bad as I thought. Up the bench, Jarrett Culver and Ed Davis. That's probably where you run into problem. Probably after their three best players. Oh boy, the roster needs a complete and utter overhaul. That's probably where the issue is. The Portland Trailblazers, starters, Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, and Jusuf Nurkic. Up the bench, Carmelo Anthony, Norman Powell. You all probably would have got on me had I not put Carmelo Anthony on this list. But Glenn, Carmelo Anthony, how could you? Yeah, that's why I didn't forget to put him on this list here. You really thought I was going to forget about Carmelo Anthony? And boy, those brothers like CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard and Carmelo Anthony are going to shoot those threes and fours. You know when? The games are usually to 50 points. And Dame Lillard loves to go like this. So when Portland has the game's tied at 46, Damian Lillard pulls up for 40. It's the shot to win the game. What time is it, baby? It's daytime. That's what time it is. It's Damian Lillard time. So what about the Golden State Warriors? Starters, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. Same deal with Curry and Thompson, like Lillard and McCollum and Anthony. When the game's tied at 46, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are going to shoot from 4-point land and win the game. Off the bench, Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins. I don't like Kelly Oubre. I think he's too offensively challenged. Washington Wizards, the last team here. Starters, Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal, and Rui Hachimura. Off the bench, Denny Avdija, Davis, Bertans. They got no defense, but you know they're going to give 100% because they can shoot and score the basketball. Wouldn't that be funny? 12-minute quarters, 3-on-3. That would be something spectacular, and it is something that would definitely sell a ton of tickets. Absolutely, relatively, no questions asked on that one. So, moving on to my next segment here, but before I do, we are live on 12 Ounce Sports. Quench your sports thirst. Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner. Get up to $1,000 bonus with your first deposit. MyBookie.ag. Promo 12 Ounce Sports. 12 Ounce Sports. Quench your sports thirst. Ladies and gentlemen, I probably have forgotten to say this, but we're growing with viewers, followers, and listeners. Give us a follow on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. Now let me get into my next segment here. NBA Top 10 Teams. As we speak at the moment. And I haven't done this in a while. I've done this with the NHL lately and the MLB. But I think it's been about a month since I've done this for the NBA. Here we go. Let's start with number 10. The Los Angeles Lakers. You kind of give them that respect factor because of LeBron James, Anthony Davis being out. But they're really not that deep with Dennis Schroeder, Taylor Horton Tucker, Alex Caruso, Markieff Morrison, and whoever else. So number 9, the Los Angeles Clippers. I had them originally out of my top 10, but then I realized, no, I cannot. Because they're currently sitting number 3 in the West. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. I like this player, Terrence Mann, off the bench for the Clippers. He's a good role player. You need those players. Not every player is fit out to be a superstar or a starter. You need those bench players that are going to give you a valuable 20 to 30 minutes in every game, sometimes 25. Number 8, the Miami Heat. I still think, other than the Brooklyn Nets, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Milwaukee Bucks, that the Miami Heat are the biggest threat to any of those teams. Number 7, the Portland Trailblazers. Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum. They're coached by Terry Stotts. And they're climbing their way up the standings in the Western Conference. The Portland Trailblazers are going to be an extremely tough out in the NBA playoffs. And it's going to depend who they potentially draw in the first round. That's going to be one of the major keys to this team. Norman Powell has been a huge addition. He brings that championship pedigree from the Toronto Raptors. Number 6, the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday. But the question is, will guys like Pat Connaughton, Brian Forbes, Dante DiVincenzo, and other various key role players step up when the postseason mounts and arrives? Number 5, the Philadelphia 76ers. I think, I know they're tied for the number 1 seed with the Brooklyn Nets in the East, but Ben Simmons, there's a ceiling with Ben Simmons, I feel like. And you also have Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris. I still think the bench play is questionable to good defensively under Doc Rivers. You also have Matisse Thybulle and other various players off the bench. Number 4, the Denver Nuggets. Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic. I almost said Nikola Vukovic. Michael Porter Jr., Will Barton, Jamal Murray. Bobo rarely comes off the bench, but I love to see him come off the bench more often than not for the Denver Nuggets. And this is a team that has the potential to reach the Western Conference Finals. But because of how deep the Western Conference is, they might be out earlier, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. Number 3, the Phoenix Suns. DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, Jay Crowder, Chris Paul, who constantly makes teams better overnight. You saw what he did with the Oklahoma City Thunder last year, and now look what he's doing this year. Number 2, the Utah Jazz. Donovan Mitchell, head coach Quinn Snyder, Mike Conley, and Rudy Gobert. And the number 1 team, surprise, surprise, is the Brooklyn Nets. We have a starting 5 of Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge, Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. That's where you know you go right. Not to bench Bruce Brown, Nick Claxton, Jeff Green, Landry Shamet, Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot, and I'm just going to go to commercial break after I say the top 10 teams quickly here. Number 10, the Los Angeles Lakers. Number 9 is the Los Angeles Clippers. Number 8, the Miami Heat. Number 7, the Portland Trail Blazers. Number 6, the Milwaukee Bucks. Number 5, the Philadelphia 76ers. Number 4, the Denver Nuggets. Number 3, the Phoenix Suns. Number 2, the Utah Jazz. And lastly, number 1, the Brooklyn Nets. So that's my top 10 teams at this various moment in time for the NBA. We're going to go to commercial break once again, and we'll be right back.
Welcome to MyBookie. You're ready to create an account and start making money. And we're here to help. And remember, you can get a bonus of up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now you're ready to bet. Just go to mybookie.ag, visit the sportsbook, click on your bet, and input the amount you want to risk or win in the bet slip. Yes, it's that easy. Just remember, at MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid.
Change your game with the all-new Pro Rock Hockey Stick, a Canadian company providing a top-of-the-line twig at an affordable price. Pro Rock sticks are extremely lightweight, balanced, and provide the perfect kick point. Get your fully customized stick today at ProRock.com. Play like a Pro Rock.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. So, my next question that I pose to the fans is, should Kawhi Leonard return to the Toronto Raptors this offseason or no? That's one of my next questions that I have. So, Leonard has an opt-out option in his contract after the NBA season is over. Will he opt out? He probably should not. But I remember last year when they choked away the 3-1 series leading the bubble against the Denver Nuggets. I'm like, he should have stayed with Toronto Raptors. They probably would have repeated. Well, now Toronto traded away Norman Powell. They tried trading away Kyle Lowry. But Kyle Lowry's a free agent. He not want to come back. Norman Powell may want to come back, but he may not. So Kawhi Leonard should stay with the Clippers and win a championship in his hometown. And he's not the proven leader that people thought they made him out to be. The culture was established when he was already with Tim Duncan, the San Antonio Spurs, and also with the Toronto Raptors and Kawhi Leonard. So that's where they potentially went with this. So, I'm telling you that Kawhi Leonard should probably not opt out of his deal. He was the one that wanted Paul George. He was the one that wanted Rajon Rondo. And now you better win with this championship team. If you don't win a championship, they're going to look at you, and I know Paul George is probably more likely to disappear than Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs. But Kawhi Leonard is clutch time and time again. So now let me go on the script here. Let's go into a betting segment. FanDuel Sportsbook, NFL betting, NFL Draft 2021 props. So I only found two of them. I'm probably only going to discuss two of them with you today, probably in serious length. For all you sports books bettors out there, I'm doing this more for you than for myself. So the only props that I looked up, because betting on a number one overall pick I felt like was a silly proposition and a waste of time, knowing the fact that Trevor Lawrence is going to probably be going the number one overall pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But the betting gets more serious when we get to the number 2 and the number 3 overall picks. So those are the two gambling props I'm going to share with you guys today. So let's start with the second overall pick betting props and odds. Second overall pick, they have Zach Wilson on FanDuel Sportsbook as the favorite to go to the New York Jets at number 2 as minus 800. Here's the rest of the field, and I'm going to show you my thoughts in a minute after I read the rest of it. Justin Fields plus 700, Trey Lance plus 2,000, Panini Sewell plus 2,600, Jamar Chase plus 3,900, Kyle Pitts plus 3,900, Devonta Smith plus 5,000, Mac Jones plus 5,000, Micah Parsons plus 5,000. Here's my thoughts on this. Number 1, there is no way the Jets are going to go with Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson in the same room. If the Jets are going to stick with Sam Darnold, you're not drafting Zach Wilson. And yeah, I know he's on the final year of his contract. Maybe you want to have Zach Wilson sit for a year behind Sam Darnold and have Zach Wilson take over the reins next year, which I understand. But it is not healthy when you have Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson in the same quarterback room for the sole reason that it will be an unhealthy competition. And you know how the New York media gets. If you have those two in the same room, then you better, for the Jets' sake, move off of Sam Darnold. But if you do not move off of Sam Darnold, I'm telling you this right now, there is no way that Zach Wilson will be the second overall pick if Sam Darnold is still the quarterback of the New York Jets on April 29th when the NFL draft is. Let me tell you who I would bet on. No, I'm not betting plus 700 on Justin Fields. No, I'm not betting 2,000 on Trey Lance. Panini Sewell at plus 2,600 is a good place to start. Why is it a good place to start? First of all, yeah, Mekhi Becton on the offensive line. Panini Sewell, some people think is the best offensive lineman in this draft. if you really want to protect Sam Darnold, and if you truly believe that Sam Darnold's your quarterback, and if you believe you could get offensive weapons in the later rounds, then you go Penei Sewell. I can understand it. Why they would go Penei Sewell. That would be a good place to start and bet. Now, these are the two players that I would bet on. I would bet the farm for these two guys to go number 2 overall. Ja'Marr Chase at plus 3,900 is where I would place my money if I had a $100 bet for Ja'Marr Chase. I would bet the farm that Ja'Marr Chase goes number 2 overall. First of all, Sam Darnold needs a weapon. They should have taken receiver last year in the first round, and they went offensive line. Ja'Marr Chase ran a ridiculous 40 at his pro day. He can catch. He's the best wide receiver prospect we've had in a long time, and he's miles ahead better than his teammate Justin Jefferson, and he's like a baby DeAndre Hopkins. He doesn't drop anything, and if you truly believe Sam Darnold's your quarterback, you better get him that number 1 wide receiver, Ja'Marr Chase. Because I'm telling you, Ja'Marr Chase is one of the best drafts. He is, in my opinion, a top 3 talent in this 2021 NFL draft. And another guy I would understand taking a $100 bet with is Kyle Pitts with the same odds as him, 3,900. And people don't want to take Kyle Pitts number 2 overall simply for the reason of, he's a tight end. Tight ends don't go number 2 overall. Kyle Pitts is a freak of nature. He can block. He can line up on the outside. He can line up in the slot. He is a nightmare, and defensive coordinators will have nightmares at this guy. Not that I'm not saying that they won't have nightmares at Ja'Marr Chase. But Kyle Pitts, because he's a tight end and not a wide receiver. He's more of a wide receiver playing the tight end position like Jimmy Graham, except that Kyle Pitts is the best tight end prospect we may have ever seen. And I don't know if he's going to be better than Rob Gronkowski, who I think is the greatest tight end of all time, and the second greatest tight end of all time, Tony Gonzalez. But as a prospect, he may have more potential than the both of them. We will see how that goes down the line. Devonta Smith plus 5,000. If you told me that a couple months ago, I placed my money on it. I'm not placing my money on it now. Mac Jones plus 5,000 and the high C's, absolutely relatively not. Micah Parsons plus 5,000, no. Third overall pick, San Francisco 49ers. They're saying Justin Fields plus 150. Mac Jones plus 150. Trey Lance plus 290. Zach Wilson plus 1,000. Kyle Pitts plus 6,000. Penei Sewell plus 6,000. Devonta Smith plus 11,000. Kellen Mond plus 11,000. And Kyle Trask plus 11,000. First of all, if you really want to waste your $100, go ahead and bet Kellen Mond and Kyle Trask. Go ahead and do it. Because you know they're not getting drafted by the San Francisco 49ers at number 3. Go ahead and do it. It's just a money grabber for the FanDuel Sportsbook keepers. Simply just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't be fooled. But I would absolutely relatively bet the farm on Zach Wilson plus 1,000. Absolutely. First of all, as I just mentioned, they're not going to have both Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson New York Jets. But now this is a different case with the San Francisco 49ers. Zach Wilson, in my opinion, is going to land with the San Francisco 49ers. I don't want to hear this bluff and smoke about Mac Jones going to San Francisco. You want to know what Kyle Shanahan, the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, and general manager John Lynch were reminded of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, of the overthrow by Jimmy Garoppolo in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs to Emmanuel Sanders a couple years ago. That's where it was when it came to that overthrow with Mac Jones at the Pro Day. How are you overthrowing people at the Pro Day? How? And then everyone's wide open. And you saw Bill Belichick, he's shaking his head like, no, I ain't going to do it. I ain't going to do it. There is no way I ain't going to draft Mac Jones where I can stick with Cam Newton for a year. Or I can trade my 15th overall pick away and bring back my former second golden boy, Jimmy Garoppolo, who used to back up Tom Brady. So I do not see Mac Jones with the plus 150 odds. And let me tell you something. The fact that he has the same odds as Justin Fields to go third overall is absolutely, relatively preposterous. How in the high seas is Justin Fields the same odds as Mac Jones to go third overall? And I know that you have your doubts with Ohio State and Alabama quarterbacks. I understand that. But to sit here and to actually think that Mac Jones is a better draft prospect than Justin Fields is, I don't know what you watch. Mac Jones had everything at Alabama. He had wide open receivers in Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith. He had the perfect offensive line. He always played with the lead. Justin Fields didn't always play with the lead at Ohio State. I know he had some struggling moments, but that's what quarterbacks are made of. I don't know Mac Jones would respond the same way as Justin Fields is. And yeah, I have questions about Justin Fields. I don't think he's going to be, I think it could be a bust, Justin Fields. But that's also going to depend on where he lands. At the same time, Justin Fields, I would rather draft a Mac Jones. Mac Jones, I don't think there's much of a place for pocket quarterbacks, and that's what simply Mac Jones is. Justin Fields is not a pocket passer. Well, that's his weak point in the pocket, but he's also needs to move on the run, make off-balance plays. I don't think Mac Jones can make off-balance plays at the NFL level. Now, I would take a chance. I don't know if I would spend $100 on this, but I would take a $10 to $25 chance on this name with the third overall pick. And that's Trey Lance. I would take a chance at plus 290 with Trey Lance. That I would do. Because I think if the Jets do happen to take Zach Wilson with number 2 overall, which I don't think will happen, then I would place my money on Trey Lance going third. That's just my opinion on it. That's how I feel about, I think Trey Lance is going to be better than Justin Fields. In my opinion, if I had to rank the quarterbacks 1 through 7, number 1, Trevor Lawrence, number 2, Zach Wilson, number 3, Trey Lance, number 4, Justin Fields, number 5, Mac Jones, number 6, Kellen Mond, number 7, Kyle Trask. That's how I feel the quarterback rankings and this NFL draft class would be. Now, Kyle Pitts at plus 6,000. No, because you got George Kittle. It's an interesting thought, but no. Panini Sewell plus 6,000. Another interesting thought, but they're usually pretty good up front with Mike McGlinchey and Trent Williams at tackle. Devonta Smith. Well, let me say this. You usually don't trade that kind of draft capital to move up number 3 to get a wide receiver. And I talked about this with my dad, my brother Jacob, and a bunch of other people. I'm saying the fact it's an interesting one. But I'm kind of suspicious. I wouldn't do it. Maybe put no more than $5. But I'm telling you, Devonta Smith, if it was 2 months ago, I would have done it. But now, with Devonta Smith's question of him being skinny and him sliding down on draft boards is simply a question mark. That's how I feel about Devonta Smith with this pick. So I would not. Now, I don't know how this FanDuel Sportsbook does each pick. All I saw went up to the first 3 picks, and I could probably understand that. Then it goes to 4 and 5 and 6, because I would have loved to debate some more for the number 4 overall pick, the 5th overall pick, 6th overall pick. But I'm telling you something right now. The 4th overall pick, if I had to bet, Micah Parsons would be the guy I would bet on for the 4th overall pick. Did you see his 40-yard dash time and the way people think he's a game-changing linebacker? And the 5th overall pick to the Cincinnati Bengals, it's going to depend on the first 4 picks fall. That's what I think. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm out of time here. Thanks for tuning in Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and your week as well. I'll be back on the air at the same time as Thursday. I'm going to have some more of these FanDuel Sportsbook props for the NFL draft. And I'm also going to have my NFL mock draft, another first-round segment. We'll see about MLB, NHL, and NBA game recaps here. Use promo code 12Out Sports. All cats deposit bonus up to $1,000 for my bookie. 12Out Sports, quench your sports thirst. Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corners, get up to $1,000 bonus with your first deposit. MyBookie.ag, promo 12Out Sports. Hope you all have a wonderful day, everyone.